Hey, deserving listeners, 90-Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
So this is what he's saying. He said, why not, when I get married to the second wife, I should take her child to you in the state?
No,
listen to
sir.
me. Listen to me. That will bring you guys more closer.
No.
And you love each other like close friends.
No.
Then I will be the elder.
Kimberly. So this is her finally, I think, realizing what she's getting into. Because the way that Usman is just completely on another planet about this. And he's like, okay, so to review what he was saying was, okay, what if we come to the States and I bring a wife with me and, well, wait, what was he saying? I think what's the compromise? Let's rewind.
When I get married to the second wife, I should take her child to you in the state.
No,
listen to me.
sir.
Listen to me. That will bring you guys more closer.
No.
And you love each other like close friends.
No.
Then I will be the elder.
Huh? I don't understand. I think verbatim, he said that he would steal the child from the mother? Or are they talking just visit with the kids? And then he's like, then you'll be friends. But is he talking about the kid? Friends with the kid? And then he will be the elder. Either way, he's still pushing this, you know, how do we make this so that you're involved with this, with, you know, the rest of my family? And then he concludes it with, I will be the elder of her, of Kimberly. I will be the elder of you. Which I don't doubt is the norm in their culture, the way they talk about things. And then Kimberly, and that's when she realizes, what have I gotten myself into? Usman thinks he's compromising. He thinks he's making a deal. And realizing that, like, wait, he thinks that's a deal for me? Like, oh my God. And then the F word comes out. So now maybe you learn your lesson and you've learned the reality of what is happening. And you say, well, get out while you're ahead, kind of a thing.
What did you say to me?
I said, what the That's what I said.
To me?
I said it to you.
Are you talking to me?
Stop. Just stop.
Kimberly causing and being rude, giving me that kind of attitude and behavior is unacceptable to any Nigerian man.
Uh-oh. So, one, like, huh? And he's in front of his friend, so he's giving, I think, a little bit more of an attitude. Maybe he feels like he has to stand up for himself, put her in her place or something. I think if his friend wasn't there, I think Usman would... Well, I think if his friend wasn't there, Usman would lie and deceive and give her the impression that he's been giving her, which is that the other woman will just be this complete afterthought in his life, which is not the way he's talking now.
She's being so mad. I started to doubt if Kimberly is actually okay with this idea of second wife. Maybe she was just saying that just to make me happy, and now she's seen the reality, she don't think she can take it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that that's how they're both concluding, that they both were deceiving each other. I think, given what we've seen, I think more accurately, they were both deluding themselves about what the other person would accept. All the signs were there for both of them that they have a fundamental incompatibility along these lines. And they were ignoring the signs or avoiding even the conversation to clarify it. You'd think you would have had this conversation ages ago, right? Because this is a fundamental, especially if you're Kimberly, it's like, okay, let's drill down on it. What exactly are we talking about here? How many kids? He said he wanted to have 10 kids. So if he has one wife, that's a lot of time with this other woman, right? And then I would hope that Kimberly would be like, well, you should be spending most of your time with this other wife and the kids because there's the kids. At least for the kids' sake, you should be around.
Are you really sure that you are going to allow me to have that second wife? Are you okay for me to have a young lady to get married because I never had child and I have to have one or two? I'm not yelling, I'm making the point.
Yeah, I think she's overwhelmed. I think she's finally realizing what's what's happening, and she's trying to process it. I think she wants to flip out, but she's trying to calm herself down, and then he's laying into her, and there's a lot of like, okay, let's bring it down, because I think she knows, like, if she doesn't hold it together, something really horrible is going to happen, because she could be feeling really stupid right now. We did see that interview with her in between, after the last season, if I remember right? And I reacted to it. She was interviewed, I think, on Entertainment Tonight or something. And she seemed like she has a head on her shoulders. And I remember thinking that in the last season, there was evidence that she could evaluate things. And from my memory in the interview, she said she was cringing at a lot of the behavior, if I remember right. Anyway, don't quote me on that, but I'm guessing in this moment she's like, okay, what is happening? And I think she's freaking out. She knows better. She knows the best case scenario is for her to just like lay low, but he's prodding her.
I'm making the point for you to get.
I got the point, babe.
So why are you just changing now?
I'm just not changing. I'm asking questions. You know what?
You change it
It was
now.
nice to meet you, but I'm going to go because your ass is pissing me off.
So close, Kimberly. I was like, she's standing up. You know what? I'm going to go. And I was like, okay, that's great. You're overwhelmed. You're faced with a reality that is very distressing. You're maybe feeling like a fool. You're on camera. He's pestering her, talking to her in a way that he doesn't normally talk to her, in a way that is, paternalistic and superior, right? I'm the elder, that kind of thing. And then she stands up to go, and I'm thinking, okay, good, just get away. Can't hurt. Just stand up, walk away. And then she does that. Like, that is abuse. That's physically assaultive. That's assault. It's not okay, Kim. Just why did you do that? Just stand up, walk away. There was no reason for that. Ugh.
The point, babe.
So why are you just changing now?
I'm just not changing. I'm asking questions. You know what?
You change it
It was
now.
nice to meet you, but I'm going to go because your ass is pissing me off. Out of here.
Yeah, it's just not okay. These things typically get worse. It starts with this, it escalates, it gets worse, higher control, bigger violence, more threats, gaslighting begins, that kind of thing. I say that, I don't know to them, but if you ever run into something like this, especially at their stage of relationship, especially under those circumstances, because he wasn't being physical with her at all. He was being annoying verbally, but it doesn't match. She could start pestering him back verbally. I wouldn't recommend that, but at least it would be an eye for an eye, so to speak. But if you ever run into this kind of behavior, it's a huge red flag that the individual had. And because last season, she did not apologize afterwards when she did this previous. She was like, yeah, it's totally justified. It'd be okay if she said, I'm justified in my anger. I'm not justified in physically harming my partner. There was no reason for that. And then we have to wonder, like, is this whole relationship based on this? Did she reach out to him because she thought she could do this to him because she's a white American and feels entitled in this way? I mean, sometimes that's a thought that runs through your mind, especially when you think of, hints of Angela here, the cake in the face. It's not that bad. Kimberly's, in my estimation, not even close to the level of problematic behavior that Angela has exhibited on the show. But it's in that direction. Upsetting.
Completely as much as I would be. And this is not what he told me in the past. So I was like, him, I'm going to disrespect him right back. So I threw a milkshake at him.
Right. So presumably she's being interviewed maybe weeks, months afterwards. When they do those interstitial interviews, it's often long after. Who knows? But she still stands by that behavior, kind of like she did on the last season. I don't know if I showed it, but she said that he lied to her, and maybe he did, but I think there's a good possibility that he misled by not being truthful, or figured she understood because in his world everyone understands, maybe, I don't know. But she's saying that now he's saying that all the wives are equally loved. I mean, they actually didn't say that. What they said was that you might love one wife more, but you can't reveal that. And of course, well, that would be concerning, because what if Usman loves one of the other wives more than Kimberly? And Kimberly's like, well, he says he loves me the same, but how would I know? I mean, he literally just said that they would lie about that. So, maybe he's telling all his wives that he loves them more than all the other wives. Anyway, so she says, he disrespected me, so I disrespected him. All right.
He brings me here to do this. And then when I start asking questions, he keeps interrupting me still. And I'm trying to get clarity. And then he gets loud with me, like, don't do that. Don't be. I feel the way he was talking to me was so disrespectful. That's how I feel. I was willing to sit down there and listen.
So I think she's being very real in this moment. And yeah, she was for a bit. And then things took a turn in terms of what she was being told. It was surprising to her, and she was freaking out, as I think anyone would in that situation. She either deluded herself and or was misled. I think it's a combination of both based on what we're seeing. And I think she was suddenly realizing that there was no way out of this. She either has to move forward with the relationship and risk a very high likelihood of being considered just one of a few wives or something and being disregarded, or she has to break up with him. And that is very distressful for her. Either way, she's going to lose Usman. She either gets only part of him or none of him. When before this conversation, she was under the impression or deluded herself that she would get 99% of him. And it was upsetting. Yeah. And she was willing. She sat down. I'm going to actually ask the questions. I'm going to stay calm. I'm going to try to really get a lay of the land here. And that was true. But at a certain, and then everything was healthy from her standpoint. I mean, for the most part. And then she stands up to leave. Fine. But then the milkshake kind of ruined that whole thing.
Do you know how hard this is for me anyway? I have every right to ask anything I want. And why can't we mold it so it fits my lifestyle as well? Why do I have to meet her? I don't live here.
Yeah, so she has this point of view. And I think she's operating from this assumption that he is asking for something. Maybe that's true, but that's never been my impression with Usman, or really any of the cast members who have this aspect of their life, particularly the culture they come from. I think she's operating from maybe an American point of view, which is, well, we meet in the middle. And I think Usman is coming from the point of view of, I don't meet in the middle with my wives. They don't have any rights. And this is how it is. This is the way that it is. We marry lots of women, and we basically do whatever we want. So, and you have to be friends with the other women because you have to work together. You have to be cooperative. We're all part of one big family. It's, I think, mostly a cultural clash. She is struggling right now, which, makes sense.
And now he's like, he thinks it's funny he's talking about this third and fourth wife. Because I'll bail out now.
She did something like this before in Zanzibar, but it was not as bad as this. I think I'm getting the sign right now to do the right thing before it is too late. She's revealing some kind of attitude I don't know before, so it is all good because it's better for me to know now.
I will say that with one flick of the wrist, she really managed to get the entire beverage all over him from top to bottom. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a more precise shot with it.
She was okay with everything, but now, since when she arrived yesterday, everything is just different, Like, she has been complaining about the second wife. But, like, having the second wife is must. Anything that's going to stop me from having kids, I will never take it. Let her just pack her things and go back, But she agreed.
Why does he date Americans, then? If that's a deal breaker, then what's going on? Yeah, I mean, he's free to date whoever he wants to, of course, but... and then why would Kimberly? I just don't understand. I don't understand that they had to seek each other out. There were so many barriers to begin with. Now some will say, well, they're just on it for the show. They want to be on the show, and it's hard to know with him. It's just hard to know. I could see it going either way, honestly, or a combination. I don't know. But if we just look at it for what it is, you just really have to wonder, why are you doing, even Muhammad, for example, Eve ran into these issues with Muhammad. You're just like, so it kind of sounds like these are some major incompatibilities between the two of you. And does that cross your mind? And also, when you're dating someone and, there's a possibility that the partner doesn't really know, hasn't really absorbed what you are going to require in the marriage, you should probably be upfront about that. I mean, the thing that I always think about is, if you're Eve, if you're Kimberly, if you're Usman, if you're Muhammad, Google it. What are the customs of that area? And then assume that your partner, in all likelihood, will expect the bare minimum of the cultural norms in that area, right? So for Kimberly, she knew she could have Googled it more. She could have read up on it more, asked around, and okay, well, that's what the typical is. He's telling me, or at least giving me an impression of far afield of that. So maybe I should be a little wary of that. And for Usman, he should say to himself, well, how many American women would agree to that, given that they grew up in a culture that said that that's absurd, that a woman would have to just accept that their husband is going to be with multiple people and that you can't be with anyone else. So it just, they're free to do it, and it's not like there are any kids being harmed. You could argue that Eve's kid was harmed in a sense. I don't know how badly, of course, but he was exposed to Muhammad and then had to lose him. So Kim's kid is a lot older, right? So he's not going to, well, I don't know, but he's a grown man. He can protect himself for the most part. Anyway, but those conflicts and those issues of naivete is what drives the viewership of this show.
I'll just go and see where she is, and I'll take her to the hotel. She may end up going back to stay tomorrow morning.
I think he owes me an apology. I'm not going to go back in there and ask him. I'm not going back in there. Oh.
If they want to work this out, or at least be friendly upon breaking up, they should both apologize. She should apologize for being physically abusive to him and ruining his outfit, I suppose, humiliating him in front of his friend. And he should apologize for pestering her about things and being insensitive about the issue. But I wonder if he even knows that it is insensitive. The way he was presenting the option of what if I had 3 wives? He wasn't smirking. He was saying it as a legit option, trying to work with her. I think in his mind that was a legit offer. That's how different his culture is about this. But he was being a little flippant about things. They should both apologize to each other and to themselves that they deluded themselves into believing that their partner was a lot more flexible than was wise to believe, right?
Can I talk to you, Emily?
No, I don't want to talk to you.
No, I need to talk to you.
No, you don't.
No, I need to talk to you.
That's all you do is talk.
No, I need to talk to you.
I'm upset with the fact that he's not being authentic with me about the things that are going on. And it's not even the same kind of second wife situation that we've talked about. He brought me in front of his friend and he belittled me and he was interrupting me, and I'm supposed to just be okay with that. Everybody has a breaking point.
So this is really typical. I've talked about this before, that when there is a realization of this nature, usually it's when someone breaks up with you. This is usually when this situation arises. And you could argue that this is kind of that, right? That the person being hurt, their feelings are hurt, they will focus on the delivery rather than the information, because the information is too hard to face. So it's not likely any of you have been in a situation like this, but you've probably been in a situation where you have been broken up with, dumped, if you will. The moment where the person says, I'm done, or at least implies or something. And of course, if we think intellectually, you would want to know that, right? Especially if they're serious. You would want someone to tell you. If you're Kimberly, you would want Usman to be truthful about what he actually wants, where the line is, what he's willing and not willing to compromise on. So if anything, she should be happy that at the very least she finally found out, better sooner than later. She could be upset that she didn't know earlier, or that he didn't at least present the information in a way that she would understand. And he could legitimately have absolutely deceived her. You could absolutely argue that he deceived her by omission, lied by omission. But the whole time I was listening to him, and of course I've only heard what they show on the TV show, what I hear from him is what I thought he was referring to. And I know less about Usman's culture than she would. She knows him, has been to his neck of the woods. So I think it's common sense to draw the conclusions that I thought based on what he was saying. I didn't know for sure, obviously, because the way that she was acting. But anyway, so she's focusing on he was interrupting me and that kind of thing. And certainly you can be upset about that. But, it's obvious that at the core, 99.9% of the emotion and upsettedness from her is she is now realizing that he is serious about having other wives, maybe plural, and is going to be as emotionally involved with those women as he is with her, maybe even more so, given that they have kids and all that kind of thing. And that she is not going to live in his neck of the woods. They're not going to live together. And so while she's gone, while they're separated, point is that that's the pain, that's the realization, that's where all the emotion is. But she's focusing on the way he delivered it, right? And we'll do this when we're broken up with. We'll be like, someone sits you down and has the conversation, and they'll be like, really? On a Tuesday? I mean, I'm exaggerating, but people will get like that. Like, really? Like 3 days after my birthday? I mean, who does that? That kind of stuff. You're like, well, did they tell you as soon as they thought it was important to tell you? Yeah. Well, what did you want them to do? And what's the custom there? Like, you wait a certain amount of days after one's birthday? Like, I don't understand. Now, sometimes it can be very inconvenient, right? Like someone breaks up with you while you're on vacation with your parents or something like this, or the day before you start a new job or something like this. But again, what's the alternative? When someone makes the choice and they are like, yeah, we've got to end it. Now, if they waited a long time and then they sprung it on you in this very convenient way to them, then yeah, you could absolutely take issue with that. But again, the main pain is the fact that you're being broken up with, right? And when people are undifferentiated, I will rarely hear them lament that and grieve that. Like, oh, it would make total sense if Kim was just like, I did not know what he meant when he said he wanted to marry other women. And I could blame it on him, I could blame it on me, whatever. Point is I didn't know until that night what it really meant. And once I found out, that was a slap across the face. I was suddenly aware of what I was getting into, and I was already in emotionally deep with him. And so it was just a shock. I just felt like, what? That would make sense to me. Instead, she's focusing on the tertiary details. All right, well, that does it for that episode from this week. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really, really do.